The night screamed before the man did. Owls cried from the tall iroko trees. Wind moved like a whispering spirit through the grass. Far away, drums beat slowly, calling something old and unseen. The moon was round and heavy, hanging low over the African village of Kijani, a place built between riverlands and forest shadows. That was the night Binta disappeared. Binta was a strong black woman, known in the village for her quiet eyes and steady hands. She sold herbs by the riverside and spoke little, but elders respected her. Children feared her silence. Hunters greeted her carefully. Some said she carried the blood of ancestors who once spoke to spirits. But envy lives even in peaceful land. That night, two men stood behind a thorn fence, watching Binta's clay house. One was Malo, her cousin by marriage. The other was Django, a loud man with quick lies and restless eyes. They had planned this moment for weeks. Their voices were low, sharp like snake tongues. "I will distract her," Django whispered. "You go to her house and change the locks." Malo nodded. His hands shook, but greed pushed him forward. Binta owned land near the river, land others wanted. If she was removed, the land would be theirs. Django stepped out first, walking toward Binta with fake laughter. He called her name sweetly, pretending worry. "Binta, the elders need you. Something is wrong at the old shrine." Binta looked up from her fire. The flames painted her face red and gold. Her eyes narrowed. The night wind touched her neck, cold like warning fingers. "The elders do not call at night," she said. Django laughed again, louder this time. "It is serious. A child is sick. Spirits are angry." For a moment, Binta hesitated. The drums beat again, slower now. From the forest, something cracked, like bones or dry wood. She stood. "I will come," she said softly. As Binta followed Django toward the dark path, Malo rushed to her house. His heart beat like war drums. He forced the door, changed the wooden locks, and smiled when it clicked shut. "It is done," he whispered to himself. But the forest was not silent. The moment Malo turned away from the house, the wind stopped. The night grew thick. He felt watched. Then he saw her. Binta stood at the edge of the trees, though she was supposed to be far away. Her feet did not touch the ground. Her eyes glowed like burning coal. Behind her, shadows moved, shapes of women, tall and thin, with white eyes and long hair. Malo tried to scream. Nothing came out. Cold climbed his legs. His body stiffened. His mouth froze open. His eyes stayed wide, staring into the dark. When the sun rose, villagers found Malo standing near the path, frozen like carved wood. Alive, but not alive. Breathing, but empty. And Binta was gone. The village of Kijani woke in fear. Women gathered water quietly. Children did not play. Hunters returned early from the forest. Elders sat under the baobab tree, their faces hard and unreadable. Malo was placed in the village square. He did not move. He did not blink. Flies landed on his face. He did not feel them. Django returned later that morning, sweating and confused. "Where is Binta?" he asked loudly. No one answered him. Then he saw Malo. Fear drained his face. "What happened?" Django whispered. An old woman named Mama Safu stepped forward. Her back was bent, but her eyes were sharp like a hawk's. "The forest answered lies," she said. "Tell us what you did." Django tried to run. The warriors caught him before he reached the river. They dragged him before the elders. Drums began again, deep, heavy, angry. Django cried. His words spilled like dirty water. He told them everything. The plan. The locks. The greed. The elders listened in silence. Then the oldest elder, Baba Carlo, stood. "This land remembers," he said. "Blood remembers. Spirits remember." He turned to the forest. And Binta, she was never ordinary. Whispers moved through the people. Stories returned, old stories they had tried to forget. Binta's mother had died at the sacred river during a full moon. Her grandmother was said to walk with ancestors. As a child, Binta spoke to empty air and answered voices no one else heard. She belongs to the river spirits, Mama Safu said. You woke what should sleep. That night, thunder rolled without rain. Firelight danced wildly. The air smelled of iron and smoke. Django was tied near the old shrine, as tradition demanded for those who anger spirits. He cried through the night. At midnight, the drums stopped. Silence fell like death. From the river came a glow, soft blue, moving slowly. The water rose without waves. A figure stepped out. It was Binta. But not the Binta they knew. Her hair floated like it was underwater. Her skin shone like moonlit clay. Around her stood ancestors, men and women in old warrior skins, eyes burning with ancient fire. The village fell to their knees. Binta's voice was calm, but it carried thunder. You locked my house, she said. So the spirits locked your fate. She looked at Django. You used lies. Now truth will hunt you. Django screamed as shadows wrapped around him. The ground shook. When the light faded, Django was gone. Only footprints led into the forest, and stopped. Mallow still stood frozen. And Binta turned back to the river. But before disappearing, she spoke one last time. This is only the beginning. The drums began again. Louder. Faster. The spirits were awake. And Kijani would never be the same. After that night, fear lived openly in the village of Kijani. It sat beside the cooking fires. It walked with the women to the river. It slept near the children like a shadow that refused to leave. Even the sun felt weak, as if it feared what it might see. Mallow still stood in the village square. They tried to move him. The warriors pushed his shoulders. The hunters pulled his arms. Strong men strained until their muscles burned. Mallow did not fall. He did not bend. His body was stiff like ironwood. When a young boy touched him, the child screamed. He is cold, the boy cried. Cold like river stone. The elders ordered a mat placed around Mallow to protect him from the sun. But the mat burned where it touched his skin. Smoke rose, thin and black. The smell was bitter, like old bones. This is spirit work, Mama Safu said. Do not fight it. At night, strange things began to happen. Dogs howled and ran in circles. Goats refused to enter their pens. Birds flew into huts and died against the walls. From the forest came low voices, singing in a language no living person understood. The drums beat on their own. No hands touched them. Boom, boom, boom. Slow. Patient. Waiting. Baba Carlo called a council of elders at the sacred baobab tree. Its roots twisted like giant snakes, deep into the earth where ancestors slept. We must find Binta, one elder said, or this village will fall. She is no longer only a woman, another replied. She walks between worlds. But she was wronged, Mama Safu said. And spirits follow justice. They decided to send hunters into the forest at dawn. Not to capture Binta, but to understand what she had become. 3 hunters were chosen. Strong men. Brave men. Kofi, the leader, wore leopard skin and carried a spear blessed by elders. Duma had eyes sharp as an eagle's and never missed a track. Sudi, the youngest, still believed courage could defeat anything. Before sunrise, the elders painted white ash on their foreheads. Do not lie, Baba Carlo warned. Do not threaten. Do not beg. The forest gate swallowed them whole. Inside, the air was heavy. Leaves blocked the sun. The ground was soft and wet. Every sound felt close. Too close. They walked past the old shrine where Django had vanished. The rope was still there. Cut clean. No blood. No tracks beyond a few steps. Sudi swallowed hard. Spirits took him. No, Kofi said quietly. He was judged. Deeper they went. They reached the river at noon. The water no longer flowed normally. It moved backward, slow and smooth. Blue light shimmered beneath the surface. The air smelled sweet and rotten at the same time. Then the river spoke. Why do you come? The hunters fell to their knees. From the water rose figures, women with long hair, skin dark as night, eyes glowing like stars. River spirits. Mothers of old magic. Behind them stood Binta. She looked both young and ancient. Her eyes held pain, anger, and something deeper, duty. Kofi lifted his head. Great One, we come for peace. Binta said nothing. The river spirits circled the hunters. One touched Suddy's forehead. He screamed. Visions flooded his mind. Mallow changing the locks, laughing. Django lying. The greed. The betrayal. Justice has started, the spirit said. It cannot stop. Binta finally spoke. They locked me out of my own life, she said. They wanted me gone. Her voice shook the water. Now the village must remember what it forgot. Kofi bowed his head. What do you want, Binta? She looked toward the distant village. Truth, she said. And balance. The hunters were released. They ran back to Kijani without looking behind. When they returned, the village was already changing. Crops had begun to rot in the ground. The river flooded homes but spared Binta's land. Fires went out on their own. Children spoke in their sleep, calling Binta's name. Worst of all, Mallow began to cry. Tears ran down his stiff face. His mouth moved slightly. At night, villagers heard whispers near him. They are coming, Mallow whispered. Who? People asked. But he did not answer. Mama Safu understood. The ancestors are walking, she said. They want judgment. Fear turned into anger. Some villagers blamed Binta. She cursed us, a man shouted. She must be stopped. Others remembered her kindness. She healed my child, a woman cried. She fed the poor. The village divided. That night, young warriors sharpened spears. Torches were lit. Rage burned hotter than wisdom. They marched toward the river. The drums grew wild. The wind howled. As they reached the riverbank, the water exploded upward. Spirits rose like a wall of blue fire. Ancestors appeared, warriors with scars, queens with crowns of bone, elders with eyes like lightning. Binta stepped forward. Turn back, she warned. The warriors froze. One threw a spear. The spear stopped in the air. It turned and flew back. The man fell, screaming, not wounded, but blind. Darkness swallowed his eyes. The ancestors spoke as one. Wrong does not die when ignored. The warriors dropped their weapons and ran. Binta watched them leave. Her face was full of sadness. This village must choose, she said softly. Face truth, or drown in lies. Thunder rolled. The river rose higher. Mallow screamed one final word that night. Forgive me. The ground shook. And somewhere deep beneath Kijani, something ancient began to wake. The dawn after Mallow's scream was not normal. The sun rose pale, like a sick child. Fog covered the village of Kijani, thick and cold. The drums were silent for the first time since Binta returned from the river. Silence pressed on every ear, heavy and frightening. Mallow was gone. Where he had stood frozen for days, there was now only a dark circle burned into the earth. The ground smelled of ash and old blood. No footprints led away. People gathered in fear. The ancestors took him, someone whispered. No, Mama Safu said. He crossed the last door. The elders knew something had changed. Baba Carlo called everyone to the village square. Even the sick came. Even the angry came. The air felt charged, like before a storm. This curse did not fall from the sky, Baba Carlo said. It was invited. He raised his staff and struck the ground. We must uncover all lies. At his command, Mama Safu brought forward a small clay pot wrapped in red cloth. She placed it in the center of the square. This pot belongs to Binta, she said. It was found buried near her house. Murmurs spread like fire. Mama Safu opened the pot. Inside were cowrie shells, river stones, and a strip of old leather marked with symbols of protection. She protected herself, one man said. No, Mama Safu replied. She protected the village. This is a binding charm. It keeps evil from growing. Shock moved through the crowd. So when her house was locked, a woman whispered, the charm was broken. Mama Safu nodded. You did not just lock a door, she said. You broke the wall between worlds. That truth hit the people harder than fear. They realized Binta had been their shield. That night, the elders prepared a truth ritual. Fire pits were dug. White ash was spread. Drums were placed in a circle. No one was allowed to leave. The spirits demanded honesty. One by one, villagers stepped forward. Jealous words were spoken. Old grudges confessed. Land disputes revealed. Secret plans uncovered. The fire burned higher with each truth. Then something unexpected happened. A young woman stepped into the circle. Her name was Nola. She shook as she spoke. I helped them, she cried. I showed Mallow where the spare locks were. Gasps filled the square. I was jealous, Nola said. Binta was respected. I wanted her place. The fire roared. Wind circled the village. From the flames, shadows rose, watching. Mama Safu closed her eyes. The spirits are listening. Nola collapsed, sobbing. But she was not struck down. Instead, a cool breeze touched her face. Forgiveness was possible, but only through truth. Far away, at the river, Binta felt it. She stood knee-deep in glowing water. Ancestors surrounded her. The village is opening its eyes, one ancestor said. But not all, Binta replied. She felt another presence, dark, heavy, crawling from beneath the hills. The ancestors grew tense. Something feeds on lies, they warned. And it has been hungry too long. Back in Kijani, animals fled the savannah. Snakes crossed paths in daylight. The mountains groaned at night like sleeping giants turning in pain. Baba Carlo sensed it. There is a deeper wrong, he said. Older than Binta. Older than us. Mama Safu's face darkened. The Forgotten King. Silence crashed down. The Forgotten King was a story told only in whispers. A ruler who once broke sacred laws. A king who used spirits for power and was buried alive beneath the hills. His anger was sealed by charms, charms renewed by women like Binta. Now the seal was broken. That night, the earth split near the old royal mound. Black smoke rose. A voice crawled across the land. Who woke me? The village screamed. Warriors rushed, but their spears shook in their hands. From the crack in the earth, red eyes opened. The Forgotten King was not fully free, but he was awakening. Binta appeared at the edge of the village, glowing with river light. This is bigger than revenge, she said. This is balance. The elders knelt. What must we do? Baba Carlo asked. Binta looked at the people, their fear, regret, and hope. You must face the past, she said. Not with weapons, but with sacrifice. Her eyes rested on the royal mound. The king must be bound again. But this time, by choice. Fear returned. Who will go? Someone cried. No one answered. Then Nola stepped forward. I will, she said softly. I helped break the seal. The ancestors whispered approval. Binta nodded. Then the turning has begun. The ground trembled again. The Forgotten King laughed from beneath the earth. And the final struggle moved closer. The night before the journey to the royal mound was heavy with fear. No one slept in Kijani. Fires burned low. Drums were silent, as if even sound was afraid. The wind carried the smell of dust and old graves from the hills where the Forgotten King was buried. Nola sat alone near the fire pit. Her hands shook. Her eyes were swollen from crying. She knew the path she had chosen might not lead back. Mama Safu came and sat beside her. Why did you offer yourself? The old woman asked gently. Nola stared into the fire. Because Binta was innocent, she said. And I helped destroy her life. Mama Safu nodded. Spirits listened to such words. Across the village, Binta stood near the riverbank. Moonlight wrapped her like white cloth. The ancestors surrounded her, silent and watchful. Yet Binta's heart was not calm. Pain returned to her chest like a thorn. She remembered her mother's death, her grandmother's warnings, her lonely life among people who feared her gifts. Revenge had felt sweet at first. Now it felt heavy. An ancestor stepped forward, a tall woman with deep lines on her face. Your anger woke ancient darkness, the spirit said. but your mercy can still guide the end. At dawn, the chosen group gathered. Binta led the way. Nola walked behind her. Baba Carlo followed with his staff. 4 warriors came last, carrying no weapons, only drums and sacred gourds. They moved through the savannah, where grass bent low as they passed. Birds fled. The sun burned red. As they climbed toward the hills, the earth pulsed under their feet, like a beating heart. The royal mound stood ahead, huge, cracked, and breathing out black smoke. Drums began to beat. Slow, deep, calling the past. The ground split wider. A voice rose, thick with hunger. Blood betrayed me, the forgotten king said. Now blood will seal me. The shadow of the king emerged, half man, half smoke. His crown was broken. His eyes burned like coals. Warriors fell to their knees. Nola screamed. Binta stepped forward. You ruled with fear, she said. You broke sacred law. The king laughed. And you walk with spirits and call it justice. His shadow struck. Binta was thrown back, crashing into stone. The ancestors cried out. For the first time, Binta felt weak. The king turned to Nola. You opened the door, he hissed. You will close it. Dark hands reached for her. Nola froze in terror. No. Binta screamed. She tried to rise, but the ground held her. Then something unexpected happened. The villagers arrived. Men, women, children, elders. They had followed. They stood between Nola and the king. Baba Carlo raised his staff. We are guilty, he said. Not her alone. One by one, villagers stepped forward. I envied her. I stayed silent. I wanted her land. The drums beat faster. The spirits gathered. The king roared in rage. You cannot bind me without blood. Binta stood, shaking but strong. Then take mine, she said. Gasps echoed. She walked forward, cutting her palm with a sharp stone. Her blood fell onto the cracked earth. The ground screamed. The ancestors surrounded her, lifting her up. The king shrank back. Not hers alone, Mama Safu cried. All who broke the seal must give. Nola stepped forward, cutting her own hand. Others followed. Drops of blood fell, not in death, but in truth. The mound glowed. Chains of light wrapped around the king. He screamed as the earth pulled him down. You choose balance over fear, the ancestors said. So balance returns. The mound sealed. Silence fell. Then Binta collapsed. The river light faded from her body. Her breath was weak. Nola held her, crying. Do not leave, she begged. Binta smiled faintly. My revenge is finished, she whispered. Now comes the price. The ancestors lowered their heads. Binta had crossed too far between worlds. The spirits began to pull her away. The village screamed her name. The wind rose. The river called. And Binta's eyes closed as dawn broke over the hills. Binta lay still at the foot of the royal mound. Her blood had dried on the cracked earth. Her skin was cold. Her chest barely moved. The wind circled her body, lifting dust and ash into the air like morning smoke. The village of Kijani stood frozen. Some cried openly. Others covered their faces in shame. The elders knelt, pressing their foreheads to the ground. We asked too much of her, Baba Carlo whispered. But the ancestors were not finished. The sky darkened suddenly, even though the sun was high. Clouds rolled in fast, heavy and black. Thunder cracked like the breaking of old bones. From the sealed mound came a deep rumble. The forgotten king was not fully gone. A thin crack glowed red. The ground shook again. Mama Safu screamed, the seal is failing. Panic spread. Warriors ran in circles. Mothers pulled children close. Drums fell silent. The ancestors appeared in full form now, dozens of them, standing between worlds. Warriors with spears of light. Queens with crowns of fire. Elders glowing like embers. One ancestor spoke, his voice deep as the mountain. The binding was made with shared blood, he said. But the balance is not complete. Baba Carlo looked up, trembling. What more is required? The ancestor pointed to Binta. She is the bridge. A terrible truth fell on them all. Binta had carried revenge, justice, and mercy in one body. The spirits had used her anger to awaken the truth, but now her life hung between worlds. If she died, the seal would break. If she lived, the spirits would lose their strongest link. The river roared in the distance. Blue light rushed through the grass, racing toward the mound like a living thing. Binta's body lifted slightly from the ground. Her eyes opened, but they were not hers. They were ancient. She spoke in many voices. I cannot stay, Binta said. And I cannot leave. The forgotten king laughed beneath the earth. She belongs to us now. Nola fell to her knees beside Binta. No, she cried. Take me instead. The ancestors turned to her. You do not carry the bloodline, they said. Then Mama Safu stepped forward. Her old body shook, but her voice was firm. She does, she said. Gasps filled the air. Mama Safu pulled back her cloth, revealing ancient markings burned into her skin, symbols of river women passed down through generations. I was Binta's grandmother, she said. I hid the truth to protect her. Shock rippled through the village. The ancestors bowed their heads. The forgotten king screamed in anger. Mama Safu knelt beside Binta and placed her hands on her chest. I carried the duty, she said softly. Now I take it back. She began to chant. The drums answered her, beating on their own, faster and louder than ever before. The wind howled. The river rose into the air like a giant snake of light. Mama Safu's body glowed. Her life force flowed from her into Binta. The old woman smiled peacefully as her strength faded. Live, she whispered. With a final breath, Mama Safu fell still. A scream tore from the village. The ground shook violently. The crack in the mound sealed shut with a thunderous boom. The forgotten king's voice faded into silence. The storm broke. Rain poured down, washing blood and ash into the soil. Binta gasped. She sat up, alive. But she was changed. Her eyes no longer glowed with river light. They were human again, full of pain and wisdom. She cried out when she saw Mama Safu's body. The ancestors surrounded them. The debt is paid, they said. The bridge is closed. One by one, they faded. Silence returned. The rain slowed. The village stood soaked and broken, but alive. Nola bowed before Binta. I will spend my life making this right, she said. Binta looked at the people who had betrayed her, feared her, and now mourned with her. Her revenge was complete. But its cost was heavy. As the sun broke through the clouds, Binta stood slowly. We go home, she said. But deep in her heart, she knew one final choice remained. The journey back to Kijani was silent. Rainwater soaked the paths. The savannah smelled clean, like a world reborn. Yet every step carried the weight of what had been lost. Mama Safu was wrapped in white cloth and carried by the women. Drums beat slowly, not for war, but for passage. The wind no longer screamed. It sighed. When they reached the village, the river flowed normally again. Crops stood tall and green. Birds returned to the trees. Balance had come back, but it demanded remembrance. That night, the entire village gathered around a great fire. Binta sat among them, no longer glowing, no longer feared as a spirit. She was a woman again, scarred, tired, alive. Baba Carlo stood. Tonight, he said, we speak truth so this darkness never returns. One by one, villagers rose. Men who plotted land theft confessed openly. Women who spread lies bowed their heads. Elders admitted they stayed silent when injustice grew. No spirits appeared. No thunder answered. Only firelight and human voices filled the night. When it was Binta's turn, she stood slowly. My heart was broken, she said. So I chose revenge. She looked at the ground. Revenge gave me power, she continued. But it also fed something ancient and cruel. The fire crackled. When I was locked out of my home, she said, I locked my heart away too. Tears filled many eyes. Binta lifted her head. Justice must heal, she said. If it only destroys, it becomes evil. She walked to Mama Safu's resting place and placed her palm on the earth. "My grandmother taught me this," she whispered. At dawn, the elders rebuilt Binta's house together. No locks were changed in secret. No hands worked alone. The door was left open until sunset, as a sign of trust. Nola became Binta's helper by choice. She carried water, learned herbs, and spoke openly about her past mistakes so others would not repeat it. A new law was made in Kijani. No decision would be taken without hearing every voice. Seasons passed. The story of the frozen man and the locked house spread across villages. Hunters told it by firelight. Elders taught it to children. They spoke of Malo, who chose greed and lost his body. They spoke of Django, who used lies and vanished into shadows. They spoke of the forgotten king, whose hunger grew from injustice. And they spoke of Binta, who walked the edge of spirit and human. Binta never returned to the river at night. She chose life among people. But sometimes, at dusk, the water shimmered blue, as if greeting her. One evening, a child asked her, "Are the spirits still watching?" Binta smiled gently. "They always are," she said. "But they listen most when we forget kindness." Years later, when Binta grew old, she called the village together one last time. She stood where Malo once froze. "This place remembers," she said. "So must we." She raised her hand. "Never plan harm in whispers. Never lock another out of what is theirs. Never think power has no price." The fire burned low. The drums beat once. Strong. Clear. Then stopped. That night, Binta passed peacefully in her sleep. The river sang softly. The ancestors welcomed her, not as a weapon, but as a woman who learned. Final moral lesson. Revenge may feel like justice, but when anger leads, it awakens greater evil. True justice is born from truth, shared responsibility, and mercy. When a community chooses honesty over greed, and courage over silence, balance will always return.